Yeah, all good. All good. Good evening. Nice, beautiful, peaceful spring evening. Nearly 8 o'clock over here. It's been for a few laps, the usual few laps in the evening. And I was in a bit reflecting. I was having a convo with someone today, actually, talking about football. And we got sort of talking about sort of football, how it's changed over the years. And yeah, one of the questions that people sort of have asked me is how did the State League, the New South Wales State League, compare to the fourth tier of English football, which is now known as League Two, what was called in '95 the Football League Third Division. So the fourth tier this is. So now known as League Two, but at the time was called the Football League Third Division because you had the sort of Premier League 1, 2 and 3. And yeah, I'd been playing for like the State League level in New South Wales for about say 91 till 95. And the old State League, you used to have, the top league was the Super League, then you had State League 1, 2, 3. So it's a bit like, say, when you had NPL 1, 2, 3. I know they've sort of changed the name a few years ago. But I suppose you can say the State League, we'll group it together with the sort of that Super League. So obviously each sort of state in Australia has its own sort of tiers, so to speak. At that point, you used to have the NSL. That was the National League, not the A League. And outside the NSL, you had like different state leagues, so to speak. So for simplicity, I'm going to sort of focus more on obviously New South Wales. That's the league I understand the most, and where I played in at that time frame. And we're going to sort of focus on the sort of training element and sort of how it compared. Well, I had a trial with Rochdale Football Club late November '95, and I went in and I did a couple of days with the first team. Then they said, okay, we'll sort of send you to train for the youth team and see how you get on and sort of go from there. And I was there for like 2-3 weeks or so, so to speak. So I didn't go directly from the New South Wales State League to the English fourth tier, the third division, the English third division as it was known at the time. So the fourth tier or League Two as it's known now, to trial. I'd been in Italy for a couple of months, August till about say September-ish, doing a bit of trialing and playing a few games here and there. Then I went out to Romania and did a bit of trialing out there, and I was playing a few games with sort of lower division team. And I suppose sort of when I arrived in England, I got the opportunity to sort of train with Rochdale. I had the opportunity to train with other teams too after that, which I won't go into at this point because I'm going to sort of focus on that. But I suppose the difference that I found in the time I was sort of training, and I went to watch the game actually before I started training with them. I went to watch Rochdale versus Hereford, funnily enough, just to get my head around, what it would be like, to be fair. And it was a tough encounter, if I remember correctly, sort of 0-0 to be fair. Then on that Monday, I went into training and I suppose it was an interesting time. And, I suppose at that point you didn't have like you have now, the internet, so to speak. So you couldn't really do any sort of research, so to speak, to figure out the levels and that sort of stuff. It was more like, you experience it and sort of go from there. And I suppose the other point is I didn't go straight from the State League as well. And I suppose when I was in sort of doing some training and playing some games out in Romania, it was a different style of football. It wasn't sort of pressing. It was, sit a bit deeper. And then sort of when I was training with Rochdale, I had the opportunity to sort of trial with them. It didn't work out, obviously, for one reason or the other. But the intensity was sort of took me aback. I mean, I could match him, I would say, fitness test wise. I no problem about pace. I'd sort of, plenty of pace to burn. That's for sure. So that wasn't an issue. But I suppose what really struck me training, and there was actually another guy training too at the time, and I think he played in the Super League and was out in the UK as well. I'm pretty sure he played in the Super League, he was saying, but anyway, long story short. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, because even at that point, obviously training was full-time in England, and the State League was part-time. You train 2-3 times a week, albeit you train outside that as well. I mean, I never really had any major aspirations to become a pro football anyway, so to speak. I was sort of enjoying travelling, training, playing a few games, working. At that point anyway, when I was sort of trialling for Rochdale, I was working at a factory, making a bit of money to make ends meet. I was going out having a good time as well, enjoying myself type thing. And the opportunity came, and it was about 2-3 weeks at a time. And I would say, yeah, from a physical perspective, it wasn't a great deal of difference really. What I would say, obviously, the players that played at that level probably playing, 46 to even more games a year if you include some of the cup games. So it's a long season. It's a longer season than obviously the State League was. The State League wasn't anywhere near as long, didn't play anywhere near. So the intensity. So I would say the Tier 4 team, someone like Rochdale, would definitely comfortably beat the State League team. Albeit in the State League, you did have some really technical players, really, really good players. There was one lad for a team I played for at one point, Granville. Rodrigo, he went out to play in Belgium, and there's another guy called Elias who was to train with. He was of Chilean heritage. He was incredibly technical. I think he just incredible technical ability. It's another story for another day. So technically there were players, absolutely, that sort of could match it. And even physically, from a statistical perspective, if you do like fitness stats, so to speak. But I suppose it would be where they would have struggled really is like game day. Because obviously the football in England at the time, particularly at that level, was really, really direct, really fast-paced, closing down. And I suppose that high intensity is going to have an impact on the footballers, aerobically, so to speak, because they're playing a high volume of games. And I think also at that point is when in England you started to see sports science come into the game. Not necessarily at that level, because I remember doing the sort of training for Rochdale. It wasn't really sports sciencey type like it would eventually come in to the top leagues and filter its way down. But the training was tough. Even when I sort of went down to train the youth team and as well, it was tough. I used to do, a lot of laps, a lot of aerobic training, a lot of sprinting upstairs and, weight circuits. And the training was pretty intense, to be fair. And I'm guessing it was intense because obviously, the games were intense, so to speak. So I think where the State League teams, and I would put the Super League teams into the same equation as well, at that point, would struggle with the intensity. Absolutely. It would be the intensity, the pace of the game, to be fair. So that was sort of like, a really, really big learning experience for me. Absolutely. The training and training, I suppose you could also argue, and I can only speak for my own experiences, obviously it's different teams, but my experience in sort of State League, playing in State League, the training was probably a bit more casual in the sense, you turn up, you do your warm up, but the training obviously, even at that sort of Tier 4 professional level, was just really intense from the get-go. It really was, to be fair. So I suppose what I would say, from a normative data perspective, probably not a great deal of difference, probably slightly higher. The fourth tier of England, and I'm only got a very small sample size, but from a perspective of the pace of the game, directness, the physicality, no, I couldn't see a State League team competing against the team, that's for sure. But that's my take on it. It'd be great to hear your take on it. It's always good to hear other people's perspectives. That's my take on it.